Keep it. We're going to come back to some more Arsenal stuff and title stuff later in the show, so stay with us. But I wanted to pivot slightly, but stay in North London, George, because you got the here we go for Gibbs White. Then they complained to the Premier League that you tapped him up. They threatened legal action. This morning, the legal action has been served from Nottingham Forest to Tottenham. And to quote it here from the journalist, Nottingham Forest have now made their legal complaint over Tottenham's move for Morgan Gibbs White. So the legal complaint has been made official. They're accusing you of illegally tapping up their player and essentially breaking a non-disclosure agreement about the release clause. And as it stands, the deal is off. What's your thoughts on this accusation that Spurs have been cheating?
I think it's just a ploy from Nottingham Forest to get some more money out of the deal, I'll be honest. Marinakas, we already know he's a greedy guy. Just have to look at his belly for that. But actually looking at how he's going around the deals, like Nottingham Forest just got a promotion to the Europa League from the Conference League. And he's now throwing up a toss like, oh, Morgan Gibbs White deal, they paid £60 million. The price that they wanted because they inserted this clause into his contract. So they were happy to accept £60 million when they inserted the deal into the contract. But now it's a case of, because they quoted Man City 80 million, they're not happy Spurs have got him for this price. And it's all just a little bit of I think my dick's bigger than yours. Like, it's a dick measuring contest at this point. Like, I feel like they're just trying to get a bit more money out from us. They're not happy that Spurs got the deal done so quick and that they knew the terms to offer Nottingham Forest to get the deal done. I'm not really worried about this deal being cancelled. I think it will probably be delayed like it is right now, but it will definitely get pushed through within the next week, if not the next week or two. I do think from the Spurs side of things, there will start to be a concern if it does delay, because Spurs probably want to bring someone in. And look, if they're going to delay the deal, Spurs will have to move on to other targets. I do think there's other targets out there that are potentially better than Morgan Gibbs White. But more than anything, this just looks really bad for Nottingham Forest. Because you're going to have a player who pretty much he wants to leave Forest. Like he's ready for that step up in his career. He's 25 years old, looking to play some Champions League football. It was either going to be Man City, it was going to be Tottenham, it was going to be someone coming to pick Gibbs White up this summer. And I just don't see this being delayed that much further. If the player wants to leave, Nottingham Forest have to let him leave. Whether the non-disclosure or anything's been tapped up. We've seen this in the past with Van Dijk. When Liverpool were accused, Jamie, you'd obviously know that you guys tapped up Van Dijk and so on. The deal gets done if the player wants to move. Obviously, last year, people referred to the Elise deal with Chelsea. Elise signed a new contract and agreed to move a year later. I don't think that's going to happen with Gibbs White. He's at the point of his career. He just wants to leave. He's ready to make that move. So the only thing they can do, potentially delay this deal. Maybe Spurs have to pay a few extra million on top for, doing something illegal, which I can't see that being the case. We offered the money they want. Maybe something happened within talks, but I think it's going to be very hard for them to prove that Spurs have done anything illegal in this case. But I see this deal still getting wrapped up pretty quickly, and Spurs won't worry too much about it.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to prove. I think there's a lot of, backhand negotiations. I think that it's same happened with Trent. Obviously, there was talk to him potentially a year before. Madrid obviously want to sign him, saying that you need to run your contract down. It potentially happening with Kanate now as well. So I think it's just natural that agents might be meeting in a hotel somewhere and speaking with a club about, listen, my player is a £60 million release clause. If you want to pay it, then we're good to go. I just think it's Forest obviously being a little bit annoyed, because I think you're always annoyed when it's your own club, because you feel, especially I think Gibbs White in today's market might be even worth a little bit more than that, and they feel like they could maybe get a little bit more, but if you feel like you want to go into negotiations, don't put a release clause in his contract so that doesn't happen. But they obviously gave him the contract to put him on bigger wages to keep him at the club. And now it's coming out that he's obviously going to leave. So, yeah, I think it's just Forest playing up more than anything else.
Yeah, when the report I did read from The Athletic was their biggest concern is they didn't want to let one of their biggest players leave so easily. And that's what I mean. For me, it's just confusing. Like, you didn't want to let him leave. You put a release clause in his contract for 60 million, which is a price that most clubs pay nowadays.
I get it, right? I'm going to say this though. I've been very privileged to see a number of football contracts, and they're not like computer games. So there may be a release clause, but rarely are they just round numbers. So rarely would it just say 60 million as like a round fee. they often would say things like, say it is 60 million, it would be 60,281,372 pounds and 3 pence. They have like these obscure numbers because that number would then have to be, someone says 60 million, it can be rejected. At the end of the day, I do think Spurs' reaction to this will tell me whether they've tapped him up or not. If they agree to pay more money than the release clause or they walk away, that tells me they definitely knew what the release clause was. At the end of the day, lots of these buyout clauses that are under NDA exist. The reason we don't know about them is because they're under NDA. And the reason that's done is because the club will accept it if a bid of 60 million comes in, but it also gives the club the negotiating tool to try and fight for more money. Gibbs White and his team have agreed to that and up front. So they've agreed that it will remain secret. If, for whatever reason, Forest believe they've divulged this amount, say it is an obscure number like I put in there, and the bid comes in at like 60 million and 300,000, a rat's going to be smelled. The first bid just comes out of nowhere, and is it just enough to go over that marker? I can understand why there's frustration, because you've gone against a legally binding agreement. And if we did a deal now, and I guaranteed you guys something and put it under NDA, and some of it was sensitive information, and then I kind of outed that to the world, you guys would go mad because we put an agreement in place to not reveal something. And I do think due process must be taken here. At the same time, I'm just watching Spurs. And so far, I think Spurs have done the exact right thing that shows they've done nothing wrong at the moment. And that's, they haven't run away. They haven't just cancelled the deal. They're reporting that they're very calm about the situation. So my personal feeling is I don't think Spurs have done anything wrong. That being said, if they have, they should be punished, because I don't think we can just start advocating for lawlessness. Otherwise, it's going to open a massive can of worms. You know what I'm saying? But I do agree with you overall, George. I think that this is just a ploy to try and get more money, because he don't like losing, this guy. The owner does not like losing, and he's definitely a live wire, to say the least.
And the thing is with that, Terry, is I'll be honest, I don't see this going through so easily as well, because he doesn't have the best relationship with the FA and the Premier League himself. He was just spitting at referees a few months ago. I don't think like they're gonna go out of their way to go and help him not get this deal done. Like, I think it's going to be a case of they'll look at it, they'll be like, oh, there could be some illegal stuff here, but unless you actually prove it yourself, you come with the evidence, you're very confident that it's been done, I don't think they're going to look into it. So if this was another Premier League owner who the Premier League actually like to work with, they might go above and beyond. But with Marinakis, he doesn't put himself in the best light. So I don't see him getting any favours done here.
No, I hear you on that. The deal will probably go through. Do you think you'll pay more, or do you think you'll get him for the buyout clause? What's your gut saying?
I think Spurs will end up paying a couple mil extra. That's what I think. I think the way these deals happen, you give them a little 2 million hush money, we've paid a little bit extra on top. For me, I'm at the point, Terry, I don't care about the price of these deals. You know, as much as we talk about overpaying, underpaying and all of this, we've definitely overpaid for Morgan Gibbs White. We've overpaid for Solanke. I feel like every time we buy an English player, we overpay. But that is just the point of the market now. It's not my money. It's Spurs. Spurs are actually spending money. I actually want Spurs to overpay for players. We don't spend enough. Too many times we're trying to underpay for players and we move on from players because they're too expensive. So if Spurs are overpaying, it's a good sign for me, I'll be honest.
Yeah, no, I mean, overpaying is so interesting because there's a lot of, a few weeks ago, I was on that. I felt we paid a good price for Cunha. I felt paying low 60s. I think we're going to end up paying around 60 million base for Vermo, maybe a little bit more. I was like, it's on the upper end of what I'd pay. But now I'm looking at the prices of what Madueke's and Alanga's are going for, and Kudus's, who are rate, by the way, and I like Gibbs White. When I'm looking at their prices and I'm thinking, I think we've actually got a decent fee there. I really do think we've got a decent fee because they're a level above. They score more goals, as an example, which puts them there. So yeah, I don't know about overpaying. I think the market's just going that way, isn't it? It's just going that way now. 25 million pound players a few years ago are now suddenly 40, 50 million. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's just feels like it's going to keep rising if money keeps coming into the game, to be fair. But good business for yourselves, I think, as and when you get it over the line.